Friends, welcome to Precise Elements, where we discuss the depths of psychology, the psychology of formation, and in Platonic reflexive monism. In this part 6 of our Lost Psychology of the Imagination series, we are discussing the vertical interforming, the idea of vertical interforming wholeness. Now, in insects, plants, and some species of fish and birds, reptiles, is formed as a complete form inside of an egg. Here we see hatched snake eggs and the snakes fully formed, hatched from those eggs. Likewise, we see an ostrich producing an egg, and the offspring coming out of the eggs fully formed. In mammals, too, life is fully formed as one complex unity from within one single fertilized egg. How does a single fertilized egg know how to form a whole complete being? Apparently, how consciousness and fully formed life can arise from a fertilized egg is a perplexing question in evolutionary psychology and bioelectrical science. We think that wholeness, who encircles all living harmonic field forms and all living life that always is, has something to do with self-distinction, differentiation, and growth prior to fertilization and birth, just like in the flowering of these beautiful flowers and mushrooms. Pre-existing, incorporeal, and living underlying harmonic field patterns of wholeness and form governs the fertilization, birth, and blossoming complexity of every life and its formation. Friends, we simply don't know everything, and finding out is a massively difficult job. This brings us to the unexplored psychology of deep formation and wholeness. There appears to be something lost in our whole worldview of eggs, and I'm entitling this Eggs and Wholeness. We think that through world wholeness governs everywhere the reflexive formation of true appearances. Hence, we may say that there subsists on this basis a vertical interior forming relation between our human world, all species of nature, and the sacred in Platonic, pre-Platonic, and Platonic worldviews. In this image, we have wholeness, and we have on the other side a pre-existing incorporeal unity, and the idea that wholeness encircles all. This turning mirror image, meaning in Greek katoptric, reflective of the cosmic egg of Orpheus, signify the internal summit of the ancient reflective movement of masculine and feminine forming forces and energies. This pre-existing unity of the at once forming creative forces of spiritual intelligence and nature formed the ontological root or wellspring of the energies and living harmonic field patterns and forces that are governing the formation of all life and the birth of every living being. What is this moving symbol of the egg reflecting to us? Incorporeal or immaterial masculine and feminine energies, at once outformed as a united unity, are the forming first forming energies or forces of all living beings. The black and white colored aspects of this image signify their unproceeding sameness with reference to the good, and their difference and progression with reference to the forming sensible world. And the turning of the image signifies the movement of sameness and difference progressing through all life, which is necessary for formation and form. The sameness and difference. This sameness and difference is the first opposition and is a necessity, say ancient philosophers, for sensing biophysiological self-distinction. Their wholeness and united unity is depicted inside the outer boundary of this egg, which could also be described in a circle or sphere. There we see the well-known yin-yang symbol. Hence, sameness, unity, and difference, division, proceed through the whole living sensing world and is everywhere present and working within the harmonic formation and unfoldment of all complexity of formation and self-conscious living life. There we see omnipresent, immaterial, incorporeal principles. These views are pre-Pythagorean, around 700 BC, and the living world was then already viewed as a living wholeness. Unseen, pre-existing harmonic field patterns seem to us to be governing cell division, the distinction, differentiation, and blossoming of all forms of nature. Love or life, who is always pregnant with prior harmonic form and formation, ever flowing and moving, just like in this image, and brings forth all sentient life fully formed as a complex unity, living information, self-distinction, and difference and differentiation. Ever-moving, forming forces, the living unseen harmonic patterns of nature evolves the ever-new formation of all sentient beings on earth and in heaven from within the infinite illumination of Through-Wholeness. Hence, masculine and feminine forming forces, here depicted inside the egg as black and white, opposing, are the root principles of Through-Wholeness and the formation of all sentient living beings. Through-Wholeness, masculine, feminine forces, the root principles of all life and being. In part 5, we said this: ancient, perceiving, forming, backflying harmonic reflection is similar to images seen in a mirror or on polished surfaces or on the surface of water. Harmonic reflective formation, an ancient image that carries the communication of force of the instant unity of interformation and wholeness. The formation of true appearances, likeness or imitation. At once forming unity with the whole of our looking, which is the whole of our sensing theater. Harmonic reflection, governing the blossoming of all new life. For all true appearances are participations within the omnipresence of real existence, real consciousness, everywhere present. Hence, we may say true appearances, and their movement is similar to these beautiful reflecting images of the sparkles off of the waves of Lake Delavan in Wisconsin. As we are watching, images are instantly formed through the interforming projection of the living, forming harmonics of nature and of our own looking. This psychological interformation brings forth the whole unity of these moving reflections within our own looking at once and instantaneously. The reflection of light of the complex waveforms on the surface of the water form instantly and reflects the difference of each one of the waves. They are images interforming through the whole of nature and our looking at once. By analogy, we may say that just as these little waves and the light reflecting off them are part of a greater lake, so true appearances, all of nature, are parts participating in a greater wholeness. Each distinct wave upon the surface of the water never is really separate from the body of water. Each individual wave rises from and recedes into, is enfolded and unfolded from within the whole body of water in the lake, and is similar to true appearances, reflections within a greater wholeness and unceasing formation of nature. To bring these ideas even closer to us, we can say every self-formed psycho-biophysiological appearance formation, a new birth within the interior boundary of wholeness, is reflective of and revolve around higher unities. From thence, self-motion of form in time owes its movement to prior higher unities, around which it makes perpetual revolutions. But self-forming world movement, a wholeness in itself, is of the nature of body, soul, intellect, spirit, and all of life. Thus, all life is the unity and fountain of the self-moving participation of all sensible appearance formation in time. Self-moving world appearance and their formation, therefore, constitutes a certain reflection, a likeness, within a greater unity, and possesses a preceding harmonic wholeness. Sensible reflections or true appearances, therefore, are self-moved, ever-forming, flowing, changing appearances of nature, just like as a reflection of the waves on water, interior to wholeness, and are sensible appearances and their formations moved in time. In every psychological formation of body, spirit, and mind, and their blossoming, therefore, prior unity precedes and brings forth from within itself living true appearances within its boundary. Does it not seem like a good idea to hold that both harmonic formation and its form is present prior to the fertilization of an egg? With these ideas given, how shall we say that wholeness always is circumscribing in its interior boundary the participation of parts and their formation? Wholeness subsists on the basis of what Proclus in 450 AD says. He describes it as the whole of wholes, which is the same as the principle of principles. The term principle of principles of Plotinus describes one illuminating infinity, a monistic deity which is beyond description and definition, and as he shows, we possess no words that can describe the one, for it is beyond all conceptions, images, time and eternity, and beyond anything that could point to it. How then do the ancient mythologists say world formation is happening? This important question and its mythology is indeed not well known. For this distinction, we return to our eggs and wholeness. We said that this symbol of the cosmic egg circumscribes the united unity of masculine and feminine energies, the fountain of all psychological aspects of harmonic formation. From the mingling of the united formation of both masculine boundary and feminine force, power, infinity energies, a third energy is brought forth, evolved. The illumination of real being, or pure existence, or real self, is brought forth from the mingling of masculine and feminine principles, symbolized by the egg of Orpheus, the cosmic egg. Real being possess all world forms, logoi, and their formation in one impartible, unproceeding form, within one united union, the illumination of masculine and feminine harmonics. Real being, unproceeding, wholeness, and one united form. From these Platonic reflective monism describes an interforming and interconnected through wholeness and its multitudes of world formation. Sensible world appearances and their formation is brought forth from preceding higher principles. Psychological harmonic reflections, true appearances, are imitations or likeness of higher unities. Reflective image formation therefore possess vertical aspects within wholeness, movement in time and appearance formation. We may say an upward undivided unity and a downward division separation to multitude or many. Hence, external, corporeal, psychological progressions forming in time are likenesses or imitations, reflections on water of a higher order unity and formation. True appearances are ultimately anchored within the united unity of the good itself, just like this reflection of the tree is anchored in the earth, an image that Proclus himself uses. Hence, reflective interformation is within its primary nature enfolding and unfolding of material and immaterial appearances or form. We may understand this idea like this. From pre-existing higher unities, many multitudes of forms and their external formation possess their being, which require many different moving media, of which the soul is the self-moving medium of living nature and formation in time. Hence, reflective enfoldment and unfoldment is equivalent to the meaning of the more ancient term involution and evolution, also used in English translation from Sanskrit. These terms possess a common symbology. to twist, to whirl, just like we've seen in the rotating of our egg. To twist, to whirl, a vortex, to through form from unity to many in time, and back again from many to unity. We are investigating this beautiful idea. For this formation has the idea of continuity of formation within it. Hence, we may see that to twist, to wind, to whirl, the idea of a whirlpool, and to mingle signifies interior psychological conversion, a change in harmonic form. A change from one dimension of an unproceeding unity to an external and downward plane, a progression of contact, form and color, and experience in time, and its abundant sensing, flowing multitude of appearances. Thus, to mingle, to spiral, to wrap around, to revolve, a whirlpool, as in this image I was able to capture the other day. This vortex spinning is the idea that we are conveying with our image, to mingle, to spiral. And there are many of these vortices in all moving fluids. Fluid dynamics are filled with moving vortices. Even electrical charges move in little torsion fields and so forth. Thus, these are very ancient symbols of reflective imitation and convertive cosmic world formation. Indeed, a convertive psycho-physical formation and exterior circumscription of matter that unfolds within a different external psycho-physical plane or distinction of matter, and all its appearances forming and flowing in time. And yet again returning from multitude to unity through forming a counter-rotating and an inward curving involution and opposing rotation. This psychical return of the soul to the good is the striving of and enchantment of all of life and its blossoming, of learning and all knowing, and of all living knowledge. Consciousness and pure intellect is, as we've seen, omnipresent. Hence, we may look at the idea of intellectual conversion as a psycho-intellectual changes in harmonic form and external complexity from unity, multitudes of downward moving external forms, self-moving world appearances, distinctions, differentiation or privation, as in Aristotle's essay on the soul. This psychology and its mythology is lost to modern science, even though it was available for the scholars of the 16th and 17th centuries, like Immanuel Kant, Galileo, John Locke, Schopenhauer, and Descartes. Through the works of Marcello Ficino in 1433 and 14 to 49, that's his lifetime, only to be retrieved by Thomas Taylor between 1790 and 1834. The following selection contains the lost metaphysics of world formation, universal imagination and wholeness, I just observe here that I can find nothing primitive about this deep psychology of cosmic formation. Indeed, everything to be still explored at a future time. See the end of part 4 for talking of Lord of the Rings observation for the study of myth. Moreover, this deep mythology is nowhere to be found in the standard models of Greek mythology, say of Joseph Campbell. With these perspectives, we continue our discourse. In the work of Proclus and Thomas Taylor, such as in the Timaeus, these are all dialogues of Plato, Philebus, the fables, and the fables of Homer, which he refuses to discuss in his dialogues because it requires maturity of thought and wisdom to understand them. The symbols of a crater, a mixing bowl, or a cup in J.R.S. Mead and the Poemander is used to communicate and indicate what we like to think of as vertical, causative, interdimensional cosmic formation. For some formative cosmic aspects are in time, other aspects are eternal, and yet other aspects of formation are beyond eternity. With this said, the most ancient symbols of a crater, a cup, or a mixing bowl indicate living, rotating, self-moving physical structures or psychical structures or vessels, and appear to communicate these following ideas to us. To bring forth, to outform, to manifest, to bring into conscious experience from within a higher immaterial unity, incorporeal unity, many or multitudes of external material forms, a great abundant external variety. This discussion can be found, I will put a link in the 6 books of Proclus on the theology of Plato at this link. Through vertical, upward and downward enfolding and unfolding, interconnecting cosmic forces and their masculine and feminine relations, a vast abundant multitude of material, of immaterial and material forming harmonics happen simultaneously, whose formation is brought forth, thought out, educed from within the formative power, force, or energy of the feminine principle, who receives within herself the boundary of the masculine creative principle. Hence, external psychological separation, downward evolution or division formation is an external conversion from unity, a change or mutation in harmonic form, and constitutes self-distinction or privation of contact, form and color in matter, which possesses many dimensions or subtle harmonics and planes of existence and self-conscious experience. For everywhere our terms interforming, interconnected, and wholeness indicate psycho-physical experiences and a circumscription of matter through a masculine boundary, whose formation, which is an external change and progression in time and form, possesses an intellectual, a paternal boundary in its plane or dimension of formation. This is the psychological limit of consciousness in every plane of existence. Hence, we may view our own self-consciousness as a downward external self-move distinction or progression from higher unities. It really seemed to us on the basis of all these things that we said so far that the whole of sensing nature, a self-moving world which is a one wholeness, is a forming as a supermassive, interconnected, living world, informed within higher world soul. Everywhere it is its sensible forms and formation through appearances are brought forth through the illumination of masculine and feminine principles. In this image of M82, courtesy NASA, the yellow and red lines represents the fast flux of magnetic fields, giving birth to new stars 10 times faster, say NASA scientists, than our Milky Way. We think this is a good analogous image to what is described in the ancient cosmology of Proclus, who treats of even more ancient works. He says the following: the creative principle, which here is a symbol of Zeus, moves the world according to bounded harmonics, that is to say, the paternal boundary of form and infinite harmonics. And he, Zeus, is indeed the supplier of intellectual motion, that is, immaterial intelligence moves the formation of the world, which we know is sound or logos, and of a life which is evolved according to time and which effects a mutation, that is, a conversion, distinction or difference in time, always according to the boundary of the same and similar and about the same things. This even difference and opposition possesses a higher unifying boundary of vision and illumination. Let me just get myself out of the picture here. Farther still, says he, Jupiter and Rhea, Divine Mother, are father-mother, unity of soul and of all the genera of beings in the world soul, of the divisions, that is the separations in it, and all the harmonic reasons, causes, vertical causes it contains, constituting it in the world as a self-moved and immortal lyre. A lyre, we know, is probably around 2,500 years old. It's an ancient music, it's a 3 or 4 stringed music instrument. And he is also the divider of the one and the 7 circles in it, and in short, is the maker and fabricator, former of figure, image, and morphe, form. We'll come back to some of these ideas at a later time. Zeus is Greek or Jupiter, Latin is the same. The symbol of the creative principle is not like all perfect wholeness, only begotten, we are coming to this, among beings, but subsists in conjunction with the vivific cause, Mother Rhea, who vivifies, illuminates all formations, together with whom he constitutes the second genera of being. Come to this shortly. Mingling them in the crater, the idea of twisting, spiraling again here, in the crater or bowl of Juno, the goddess Hera in Greek, in order to the generation of souls. For of things which all perfect incorporeal wholeness, only begotten, is effective and at the same time generative of these, Zeus is the cause, is all symbolic, is the cause in a divided manner in conjunction with the crater of Juno. Hence all perfect immaterial wholeness is exempt from sensible world formation, that is, it's permanent, not participating in external progressions at all, and is the same incorporeal intelligible unity or simplicity. Proclus says further, the vivific deity, that is to say Mother Rhea, the Divine Mother, establishes in the middle of the intellectual kings that we've just spoken about, Saturn or Kronos in the upper, and Jupiter or Zeus in the lower. Between them, she establishes the prolific simplicity of formation. Juno, according to her highest and most intellectual and all perfect powers or forces, feminine intellect. Hence, the first crater or cup of Juno constitutes the first effective projection, formation of the prolific abundance of souls. Thus, Juno, or Hera, the middle, is indeed essentially vivific, living, illuminating all souls, since souls also are certain lives. And there is the link to what I've just said, which I will put in the description below. We'll come back to these concepts, which is a little abstract, only because we haven't heard them before. We hear, for instance, that Hera is the goddess of marriage. Well, you could knock me over when I found out, well, there's really a deeper symbolic meaning of Juno and Rhea, which is what we are treating of here. This brings us to the divine mother, Rhea, the fountain of all illumination of forms and nature. Proclus says, the mother goddess Rhea mythologically educes, brings forth, exhibit from indeed into herself the generative or forming cause of the world, Jupiter or Zeus, who contains within himself the form-producing logos, causes of cosmic separation, division, and the externally progressing corporeal material world movement. From this perspective, Divine Mother Rhea is the same as the feminine principle described in Orpheus as the nurse of men and gods, night or fantasia. Link below. Thus, Divine Mother Rhea, considered as principle, is a stable and united feminine intellectual cause of all the causes of world fabrication or formation. There are many subtle intellectual dimensions or planes of matter and intellect and soul, and she is the principal original unity or monad, abiding and remaining in herself. Hence, Rhea is the middle binding force who unfolds, evolves into her own light all prior immaterial intellectual multitude. And she again convolves, returns multitude into herself. That is, nature embosoms her children again within herself. To convolve means an inward curving, whirling motion, to roll up within, or to coil or wrap herself around. According to Proclus, Mother Rhea imparts her own proper, impartible, infinite, illuminating middle power or force to all secondary, material, progressing, forming natures in an unenvying abundance. She binds within her intellectual self-comprehension all higher intellectual natures and total life and all streams of life. She is the permanent stability of nature, but she's above nature. She's not participating in nature itself. We'll soon see why not. This we can say, all perfect immaterial world soul, a perfect wholeness, is the higher incorporeal governor of all secondary self-moving external material living life of body and soul and spirit, the formation of the sensible world. There is a link to this in the description. The omnipresence of all perfect, incorporeal or intelligible wholeness, the only begotten world, soul or spirit. We find the same thing in Genesis of Moses, is secondary to the whole of wholes, the good itself in progress. Hence, all perfect wholeness precedes all and holds within herself all major cosmic planes of existence and their unproceeding divisions and separations. All perfect wholeness, or the world soul, is the real fountain of all cosmic self-movement and is impartably remaining or abiding within herself. The idea of stasis. Stasis is the idea of to be at rest with reference to motion. That is to say, is permanent, immovable, and stable. Hence, like the tree that's anchored in the earth. Hence, we may say that within the stasis, impartability, the great stability of all perfect wholeness, or world soul, subordinate major cosmic orders or planes of wholeness exists, who possess their self-moving, vivifying fountain within Mother Rhea. The totality of the self-moved, self-apparent, sensible world possesses many interconnected internal planes of self-division, self-distinction, and differentiation and separations, and their downward and upward harmonic movements to unity. These intellectual divisions and separations are distinctions of form and matter and are conversions of paternal energies, and they proceed their division according to four principal convertive wholenesses and their boundaries evolved by feminine forces or power. Wholeness, through whose interforming involution and evolution ideas or forms are brought forth, made manifest within the sensible world in time. Real being or real self-existence holds within itself all ideas in one infinite illuminating idea. These four wholenesses are summed by Thomas Taylor in his introduction to the works of Plato, and they are as follows. The first and highest illumination from within the intelligible incorporeal summit, two unproceeding intelligible wholenesses without separation subsists. The whole of wholes, which we've met before in this presentation, the principal infinite illumination of the good itself, in which all other subordinate wholenesses are centered and rooted, and which is the same as the principle of principles of Plotinus, the one beyond words. The luminous order, the order of light and illumination, or real plane of self-existence, an incorporeal, infinite, all-perfect wholeness, without contact, without color, and without figure, formless, infinite illumination. The next two wholenesses is we find in this sensible world, the secondary evolution from there, the sensible world formation. The totality of the sensible material world evolved from Mother Rhea, mother of Zeus or Jupiter, who embosoms the creative principle, consists of two cosmic orders, dimensions or planes or fountains of wholeness. There is a higher plane of wholeness, says Proclus, and as Taylor in his introduction, the creative cosmic or fabricative forming logos or of the whole sensible world, symbolized by Zeus or Jupiter and the creator of Juno. And a lower plane of wholeness, the mundane world, the mythological creator of Dionysius or Bacchus, who is the wholeness to which our human sensing world belongs, and is an appearance in the most extreme matter. These four major living fountains, who represent different planes of formation and harmonics, indicate to us that the whole sensible cosmos always forms in all its hidden and apparent planes or dimensions of sensible distinction, which is a circumscription of matter and harmonics as a living, intelligent being. From thence, we learn that convertive psychical whirlpools or vessels possesses twofold characteristics. First, psycho-intellectual whirlpools are essentially convertive and reflective from unity to an external formation, bringing forth world external appearances from unity. Reflection occur through the assimilative, receiving and vivifying force or power of the feminine principle. The fantasy, receiving and assimilating into herself the formation of the world. This through involution and evolution, through involution and evolution, the convertive whirling or mingling of forces brings forth, projects from within themselves, multitude, the many vast abundance of diversity of the universe from higher unity. In the second place, this convertive action occurs upward and downward on the harmonic scale, which is abundant and infinite, and of which it seems we only know the smallest of portion. And conversion constitutes instantaneous unfolding and enfolding movement. Indeed, an interformation that circumscribes world appearances in matter. But here is the thing. Through upward and convertive continuity of contact, all four cosmic wholenesses simultaneously forms the eternal nature of the sensible world and its self-moving distinction through appearances and differentiation in time and form, made manifest through this interformation of reflective, internal and external contact, form and color. From thence, the whole sensible world is generated instantaneously and perpetually, and Genesis itself, that is generation, is its movement in time. Hence, the involution and evolution of both immaterial and sensible planes of harmonics and appearance formation are to be understood as all are within all and all are through all. The one is omnipresent, immanent throughout the world in formation, for everything is interforming and interconnected through wholeness and its illumination from within the light of the good. To bring this meaning still closer to us, the sun, in its principal cosmic meaning, illuminates, make visible, figure, color, contact. The whole flowing, ever-changing formation are the perpetual genesis of the sensible world. The sun, the cause of visibility and making visible the genesis of forms or appearance, is analogous to the higher unity and illumination of the good, whose omnipresent illumination is everywhere made manifest through the genesis of sensible world appearances and their formation. All this information is pre-Pythagoras. This analogy, according to Summit, of the principles of the sun and the good can be viewed in the 4 sections of a line of Socrates. This analogy of the 4 sections of a line is the center of the psychological interconnection of the ancient Greeks with the far more ancient principle of the 4 states of awareness, with an enigmatic 5th, which we will come to, of contemplation, the practice of philosophical virtue in the mysteries of Ulysses. The core of this methodos, or is the knowledge of self, the unfoldment of wisdom and knowledge, and is explored fully in the Republic, a dialogue of Plato. In fact, his most important dialogue. We can also see this fourfold practice in the integral Vedanta of Sri Aurobindo, Vivekananda, and Ramakrishna. That the sun, therefore, is analogous to the good is said in a symbolic and reflected imitation likeness sense. The symbol of sun, a certain likeness, imitating the illuminations from within the good, gives form and life and generation to all sensible natures. Makes perfect sense. Taylor observes of these fourfold cosmic wholenesses. Here then is the great difference, says he, and a mighty one it is, between the knowledge gained by the most elaborate experiments. He refers to John Locke, one of the early champions of experimentalism, and that knowledge acquired by scientific reasoning, founded on a spontaneous and unperverted and self-luminous conceptions of the soul. He observes further, he says, no less remarkable is the difference between the tendencies of the 2 pursuits, that is, experimentalism or the work of the soul. For the one elevates the soul to the most luminous heights and to that great ineffable which is beyond all altitude. But the other, the material world, this is his criticism of dualism and the experimentalists in the time of John Locke, 1632 to 1704. He says, this is the cause of mighty calamity to the soul, since according to the elegant expression of Plutarch, it extinguishes her principal and brightest eye, the knowledge of divinity. Aren't we hearing many noises today that we have lost touch with nature? We not seeing that ancient contact within our own looking is a beautiful backflying reflection and interformation of our own unity with nature, is the cause of the breakdown of and the debilitation of the human soul and the soul of nature. This boundary and its limitation is in our own looking and can be overcome. True worship, says Tolkien, is a mystical enchantment, and is an enchantment with the good in its highest meaning. These are images that we use throughout, but the most beautiful one my sister sent me is the angel wings in the sunset over Jacob's Bay in South Africa. Beautiful. Thank you for watching our videos. We appreciate that.